How did 2024 go for you? Are you happy with the results you got over the past year, or do you feel like you left some room in the tank? You maybe got some results, but didn't get the results you wanted. Today, we're going to dive into what you can do in 2025 to take your game to the next level. This is refining the habits. This is leveling up your nutrition. This is really adapting to the ever changing world of recruiting. On this podcast, we talk a lot about recruiting, mindset, all these types of things. We're going to really dig into what you really need to focus on in 2025 so that you get much better results than what you got in 2024. So by the end of this episode, you'll know the habits, the strategies, and the mindset shifts that you need to continue building on the progress you made in 2024 or to reset and make a huge jump in 2025. So welcome back to the Student Athlete Performance Podcast, where we help you unlock your full potential through better nutrition, better habits, and a mindset built for success. Let's get to it. So we look at college recruiting. We see it all the time now. We've got the transfer portal, which is in full swing right now for many sports. We have fewer roster spots. We have college coaches who are really in a win now mentality because coaches are on the verge of getting fired just from having a losing season, just from having a mediocre season or just a season that is not up to their program standards. So they are looking for athletes who can help them win right now, which is why the transfer portal is so appealing. This is why many coaches are going to jump for the transfer portal instead of recruiting somebody out of high school who is undersized, may have the talent, but they're undersized, or maybe they have the size, but they need some development. And so this is where that gap is. And this is where you're going to see less and less opportunities. Many of you guys are like, yeah, I want to play D1. But you don't understand that going D1 is not the same as what it was 5 years ago. Going pro even is not what it was 5 years ago. And so what we need to talk about today is that you have to take your game to another level than what maybe athletes did 5-10 years ago. And we see this, even if you look at let's just say mile runs. 100 years ago, people were running miles in like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, maybe like 6 minutes. And now like people are running miles in like 4 minutes. They're running like extremely fast miles. And it's because the evolution of training, of development, of all these different things that we are building on. So you as an athlete have to adapt to the ever-changing environment of college sports, of just sports in general. And so that's why nutrition, habits, and mindset are essential. You cannot ignore these things. And when it comes to nutrition, you cannot just focus on protein and calories. Let's take Drew, for example. Drew, in 2023, we started worked together for a year to help him gain about 40 pounds. He got stronger, he got faster, he was able to hit the ball harder, and he had a huge breakout sophomore season. After that, he got a full ride D1 scholarship commitment. So he got that thing that most of you guys are chasing, but he didn't stop there because he was told that he needs to get faster. And so now he's focused on gaining even more speed. He's trying to develop that even to a higher level. He also recognizes that when he's going into his junior year, he's on a watch list. Pitchers are going to be watching for him. And so now he's like, okay, what can I do to deal with the mental side of things and the fact that pitchers are going to be throwing different things at me because I'm on their watch list at this point. And so the game has changed for him. And so he is changing with it. Now, I want to acknowledge that you guys can be satisfied or happy with what you did in 2024, but we have to recognize that, again, we can see that progress, but then we also need to look at 2025 and figure out what it is that we are missing or what it is that we need to get better at in 2025 to take our performance to another level. Maybe it's your strength, maybe it's your speed, maybe it's your confidence, but there's something there that we need to develop. And this is another athlete that I love is Maddy Weaver. So she was 2024 basketball commitment, already lined up college-wise, knew where she was going, but she recognized that there were still things that she could do. So this is an athlete who had never really played basketball going into high school. She was a swimmer, switched to basketball, put all of her energy into being the best basketball player she could be. And she ended up being the career scorer for her high school. And on top of that, though, she recognized her senior year, she needed to better her nutrition. She had inconsistent habits. She wasn't eating breakfast consistently, or if she was, it ended up replacing her lunch. She was not performing to the level she wanted to, and she was crashing a lot. We started working together. She got into that good solid routine, and she had better energy, better performance, just not just through her basketball games, but also through her schooling. Take that to her college freshman years. She's a freshman varsity starter. So number one, that doesn't happen too often. On top of that, though, she is in the top 3 for points scored and one of the top 2 for rebounds for her team. So she continues to find ways to level up. She is continuing to find ways that she can get better. And that's what you have to do, is recognize where are your gaps? What are you missing? Maybe it's your GPA. Maybe you are a really talented athlete and you've put in the work in the training. Maybe education is actually the area that you need to focus on. If you have a 3.0 GPA, you probably need to up that. If you are locked in on your training, you're working out 5-6 days a week, you're getting some good growth, but you're skipping breakfast all the time, or you are not consistently eating pre-post workout, or the only thing you're doing is eating more protein or more calories, that's probably, again, an area that you need to improve on. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, though. Maybe you're in a position where you're like, I have a million things I need to get done. I'm behind on my nutrition. I'm behind on my training. My mindset struggles. My GPA is struggling. Maybe everything's struggling all at once. Now, I would be causing you harm if I told you to try to fix all those things at once. What I do in my program, and the reason why 90 to 95% of athletes in my program get the results they want in 90 days, is because we don't throw 20 things at them at once. We take a look at, okay, what are the 3 things that you need to do that are going to produce the biggest results for you? So, for example, maybe your mindset is just crap and your confidence is just low. And so maybe it's, hey, we need to figure out how can we build your confidence. Sometimes that confidence can come from the strength and the training and all of that type of stuff. I mean, that's where Drew actually built more confidence because of the results he got from the nutrition and through more consistent training. So when he started gaining that size, he was able to hit the ball harder. He was able to get better results on the field. He gained more confidence through that. So that could be one avenue. Maybe you need a mindset coach. Maybe you need to work mental performance. But when we talk about nutrition, most athletes fail at the nutrition. And many of them I've talked to, and I've known them for a year through Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and they're not much better than they were a year ago. So they're in the same position, or maybe they did one thing better over the course of a year. That is not progress. I mean, it's a little bit of progress. There's a little bit, but that's not getting 1% better every day. That's very minimal growth if you've only changed a couple things about your nutrition over the last year. What my athletes do and what I have them do is the very first thing that we do in the program. Usually the first 3 things that they need to fix is either their lack of a breakfast, or just the breakfast sucks and we need to improve it. It's just cereal or something. We need to improve it. Pre-workout. So they might have a lunch 4 hours before their workout, but then they're not eating anything before the workout, anything between that 4 hours and that workout. Or their post-workout is lacking. So maybe dinner's not until like 2 hours after the workout, and so then they're not eating anything. Or maybe their workout's in the evening, right before bed, and they're not eating anything before they go to bed. Those are big gaps right there. Those are the 3 biggest gaps that I recommend any athlete. One of those things, at least, you need to fix. Most of my athletes need to fix all 3 of them. And so that's why, my athletes in the program get such great results, is because we focus on what are the things that are going to produce the greatest reward for you. Again, that's the key. We don't just start eating more fruits and vegetables right away, because you may not see a big result from that, depending on where you're at. If you're trying to lean out, yeah, we'll probably get more results. But we have to identify what are those biggest gaps. We address those gaps, and then we build off of that. So we've got those 3 things, then we find out what else we need to do after that. But one of the things I really want to encourage you guys to do is to do habit stacking. So a lot of you guys struggle with breakfast, for example. Instead of going and just trying to wake up earlier, make this whole new breakfast, do this whole new routine, it's going to be very hard to commit to that. Instead, let's focus on, hey, what is a breakfast that I can make the night before? Or what is a breakfast I can make on Sunday and I can make enough for the whole week? Maybe it's breakfast burritos. Maybe you're like, hey, I could do breakfast burritos in the morning. Why don't I make those on Sunday? Maybe after dinner on Sunday, we make a bunch of breakfast burritos. Or maybe after church or whatever it is on Sunday, make some sort of finish of something. So finishing church, finishing dinner, connect that to this is what I'm going to do after that. And you start making those breakfast burritos. Maybe the night before, you're saying, hey, I need to make breakfast. So after dinner, I'm going to make breakfast for the next day. And it's going to be ready to go. All I need to do is heat it up. So again, habits that connect it to something you're already doing, you're going to be much more likely to actually do it. Another example, pre-workout. Maybe you are terrible about eating something before workout, or maybe your teachers are very strict and they won't let you eat. So maybe you're like, hey, as soon as school is done, I have a pre-workout snack. Or when I'm passing between fifth and sixth period, I have a Cliff Bar. Whatever it is, make that connection, make that relationship, and have it easy and accessible. When things that we're trying to make as a habit are easy and rewarding, we're more likely to do it. So if you're trying to do something new in 2025, make it easy and make it rewarding. Those are two things that are going to really help you see more success in 2025 and get you much more results. And this is one of those examples with Drew. And this is an example with many athletes in the program, but Drew is a perfect example. He was very inconsistent with breakfast. If his mom didn't make it, he'd probably just eat cereal. And so he was, again, undersized, 6 foot, 140, wasn't really seeing the growth that he wanted. And once we started saying, hey, like, this is what we're going to do for breakfast, we start building a routine that works for him. And he was able to do that consistently. Now it's just a habit. And part of the reason he also said that he wasn't doing the breakfast is he's like, well, I'm not really that hungry. It's like, okay, again, that is because you've developed the habit of not eating breakfast consistently. And so your body is used to you not eating it. Create a new habit and say, I'm going to start eating this consistently. And over time, his hunger levels went up. So not only was he more hungry at breakfast, he was more hungry at other times of day. So it allowed him to be more consistent with that. On the leaning out side of things, we start doing things that help fill them up more. So more fruits, more vegetables, more fiber, more protein, things that are going to help you feel fuller, is going to make it easier so you can still eat that 4 or 5 meals a day, but then you are filling up faster. And so you're eating overall less calories because you're adding in protein and fiber. Again, find something that you need to work on, connect it to something else you're already doing. I also want to highlight back to that nutrition and really that commitment is, Carter McConaughey is somebody who is just wired differently. I had him on the podcast recently. He's a perfect example of really that commitment that it takes to get 1% better every single day. As a freshman, he was already committed to Arizona State. So he was already a really talented athlete. He was already, excited to go there. However, if you look at a lot of guys right now who were committed as freshmen, many of them are decommitting. They're recognizing, oh, hey, I'm going to sit on the bench for a while. Or, oh, hey, some other thing about this is an issue and it's not going to work. Carter's like, okay, no, I'm going to find a way to get better. This is where a lot of athletes are struggling right now because they don't have any resilience and they don't have any, they don't have grit. Carter has this resilience and he has this grit. He's like, okay, I'm going to find a way to get better. Rather than saying, oh, hey, I'm just going to go to another team or I'm going to go do another thing. It's like, no. I want to find another way to get better because his ultimate goal is actually bigger than himself. Yes, he wants to go pro, but he also eventually wants to be able to give back and work with athletes in the future, work with younger athletes. And he's already doing that. And so if he can be the best example possible of really putting in the work, really maximizing his body, because he's not that tall. So even though he's not that tall, he's doing everything he can with his body to maximize his performance. He's doing everything he can. And so that's why when we worked on his nutrition, he was locked in. We set up regular meetings and just really put in that work. And we built a routine that worked for him. Again, Carter's very different than Drew, for example. Drew can, eat a couple sandwiches half an hour before workout and be fine. Carter, on the other hand, needs a little bit more window on that. He's more of the 4210 in terms of pre-workout fueling, where his stuff is more lighter earlier or more heavier earlier. And then that last hour, he is keeping it pretty light. And so again, every body is different. And so that's where we need to adjust based on our needs. And so that's where, again, what we worked on with Carter is fine-tuning it based on his routines. And then that allowed him, so again, building those habits, building those routines, building what worked for him, allowed Carter to go into this past summer and really thrive, even though he was on the road the entire time. You know, the reason why a lot of athletes fail and a lot of athletes end up going backwards in the summer during summer ball is because they never really built habits. They just started doing something to gain weight or do some temporary thing to get some temporary result. And then as soon as their schedule got thrown out the window, because travel ball is a different beast in itself, they go backwards. So understand that what you do now, you have to recognize, is that going to help me in the future? So you building a habit around making breakfast ahead of time or doing whatever with your breakfast, is that helping you plan ahead for the next thing? You know, again, he was on the road all the time. He got access to different foods. He chose to eat the better foods over the not so great foods. He was eating more quality food versus the fast food that some of his other teammates were eating. And he was locked freaking in. Again, he understands that every little bit counts. Every 1% counts to getting better. Because if he's maximizing his potential over here, say his potential is right here and somebody else's potential is right here. If your potential is not as high as somebody that you're competing against, but they're only doing the minimal things to maximize their performance, and you do everything you can to maximize your performance, you win. So you have to do everything you can. This is why, you know, underdogs tend to have these huge wins, even though they have less talent. They did everything they could. They executed really well to maximize their performance in that game. That's what you have to do with your game. Do everything you can step by step to maximize your potential. So again, you may be really happy with 2024 with the results you got, but there's still opportunities to get better in 2025. There's still room for growth. The best athletes out there, Tom Brady, for example, constantly finds ways to get better at whatever he's doing. He's constantly trying to find ways he can improve. If you did not have a great 2024, it happens. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge what went well. Acknowledge what did not go well. Then build on it. Be like, okay, well, this didn't go well. I need to address those things. This went well, so I'm like, cool, like I can maintain that for now. Let's now work on these other things and build those things up so that I am at the level I need to. Again, this is what Drew did, Maddy did, Carter did, is they found ways to get better every single day. They found ways to continue to improve even when they had setbacks. Yes, they may have setbacks, but they're finding ways to improve. Drew had some injury issues. Carter also had injury issues, and they found ways to overcome those things and to keep building and keep getting better. So just as a final conclusion, remember, if you want to succeed, if you want to be the best athlete you can be, if you want to be an elite athlete, if you want to go D1, if you want to go pro, whatever your goal is, you want to maximize that potential, then you have to be hungry for more. You have to find ways to build new habits, to really not try to follow what somebody else is doing necessarily, but finding something that's going to work for you and get you real results. If you hate eggs, maybe eating plain old eggs may not work for you. Breakfast burritos might work for you. Greek yogurt parfaits, smoothies might work for you. You have to find what works for you, and you have to do it consistently. When you do those things, you are going to get much more results than the person over here who is like, oh, hey, mass gainer, I'm going to go take that. Or, oh, hey, I'm going to start taking this random supplement. Or I'm going to start drinking a gallon of milk a day. Or I'm going to follow this meal plan from my trainer. Like, no, you have to build habits. This is why if you look at people who follow a diet, most of them fail. They may succeed initially. They might get that temporary result and then they go backwards because what's inside did not change. What's inside your head did not change. You have to change what's going on up in here in your brain in order to get sustained results. That's why mindset is a huge deal. And that's why nutrition with that mindset is going to make even bigger of a deal. And you're going to get more long-term results. And you're going to be much, much happier with your results and your future if you do that. So if this episode inspired you to level up, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss any episodes going into 2025. I'm excited for some of the guests we're going to be having and really just more and more of these opportunities for me to help you level up your nutrition and level up your game. So until next time, keep striving for greatness.